Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. I'm delighted that you can join us today for this TCS webinar in collaboration with Data News, titled How Can Belgian Businesses Lead the Way in Transformation, Innovation and Sustainability? My name is Christophe van der Stad. I'm the editor-in-chief for Data News, and I'll be your host and moderator for today. Now, I'm sure many of you listening will be as happy as I am to leave the majority of COVID-19 restrictions behind us and embark on this new but exciting journey in the world of digital technology. And as we've all witnessed, these three pillars of business growth, transformation, innovation and sustainability, well, they have been vital over the past 18 months, not just in Belgium, but across the globe. The climate challenge has rightfully returned to the forefront of the global agenda, and as a society, we have a shared responsibility to address the fundamental issues facing our planet. No one claims this is going to be an easy ride, as only recently Diederik Samson, the Chief of Cabinet for the Green Deal, said when he recently launched TCS's first European passport. Half of the carbon reductions need to come from technologies that aren't invented yet. So if you come to think of this, what does this all mean? Well, to put it simply, we need to get innovating like never before. And to meet these targets, we've all got to think differently, challenge the status quo, and rethink established processes and ways of work. Now, for businesses, this means embracing digital transformation, not just as a luxury, but as a necessity. TCS believes that innovation is at its most impactful when people from different backgrounds and ecosystems come together. And that is, ladies and gentlemen, why we are here today. In bringing together some of these industry leaders, we're hoping to spark conversation, challenge our perspective, and acquire new insights into how digital technology, innovation, and sustainability can be a force for good across Belgium, Europe, and the globe. Now, for the past 18 months, this would be the point where I would ask our panelists to unmute themselves, but it's a pleasure not to have to today, as they can all join us here in the studio. Welcome to all of you, dear panelists. Let me introduce our panelists. Joining us today from manufacturing firm Bridgestone EMEA. I'm delighted to welcome Bart Kerkhoffs. Bart has been with Bridgestone for over 4 years now. In August, he became Vice President for Information Technology and CIO for the Europe, Middle East, India and Africa region. And he has previously worked for organizations including Hewlett-Packard and P&G over a career spanning, I think, about 20 years, right? Okay. Welcome. 25 doesn't matter anymore, those extra years. Welcome, Bart. Also with us on his right side is Sébastien Scarmur. Sébastien is something of a local, I think, right? Having spent most of his working life in Brussels, in September 2019, he joined bpost, Belgium's largest postal service, where he currently serves as the Chief Digital Officer. Now, I think your career spans about 15 years?
Exactly, 15.
15, all right. And he has worked for household names, including telecommunications firm Proximus and Brussels Airlines.
Exactly.
Welcome to you too, Sébastien. Switching over to the left side. On my left side, joining us from AXA Bank Belgium, we have Dieter van Uffel. Dieter is Head of Innovation, Architecture and Technology at AXA, where he has worked for over 4 years. He has previously built up his experience in academia as a professor at institutes, including the University of Antwerp and the Antwerp Management School. Welcome to you too, Dieter. And our fourth panelist for today from TCS, we have Jet Roberts. Jet is the Global Head of Operations and Delivery Excellence for High Tech at TCS, with over 30 years of experience. Wow, so much experience around this table. Well, he's responsible for maintaining a single global service standard across the business units and for ensuring that TCS's customers experience certainty and assured service delivery. Welcome to you, Jet. Well, it's a true pleasure to have you all with us here today. And I can't wait to dive into how, to better bring innovation and sustainability into the world of business and what we can all learn from each other. So I'd like to kick off our first discussion point. I'd like to start by turning to Bart. Bart, thanks again for joining us. You took your current role in August, something of a baptism of fire, or how shall I call it? It has been a baptism of fire.
I was prepared for the job.
Okay. You work at Bridgestone. Bridgestone is a tire company, at least that's how most of us perceive Bridgestone. But I'm sure it's much more than that in the digital age we're living in. Can you please tell us a little bit more about the organization and what kind of initiatives Bridgestone does with regards to digital transformation?
Absolutely, I think that Bridgestone is obviously very known for its tire brands. Predominantly Bridgestone and Firestone, but we look at ourselves as a global leader in mobility solutions. Yeah, and with Bridgestone is a huge company. We have over 140,000 employees in 150 countries, large manufacturing facilities for R&D. So we have quite a large global footprint. Yeah, we're also very proud to be a worldwide Olympic partner in that sense. So we feel also that we're uniquely positioned to address some of those unique mobility solutions or mobility challenges that are out there these days. Now, obviously, we focus a lot on our tire business, like tires for cars, for trucks, for airplanes, for our agricultural vehicles. Some of the golfers among us probably also know Bridgestone from the sporting goods and the golf balls that we produce. But more and more, we're also focusing on what we call Bridgestone Mobility Solutions, which is a business unit we have specifically created around anything that has to do with solving some of the mobility problems. For that, we've created a strategy that's sort of based on three core foundations. One obviously will continue to be our core tire and rubber business. The second level there is what we call tires and tire-centric solutions and anything that we do with building technology around that. And the third part is really along mobility solutions, really thinking about the future of mobility away from core manufacturing of tires, and we believe that we're in a unique position to be pioneers in that particular area. That's how we're transforming the company. That's how we're trying to transform also particularly our industry, and that transformation or that evolution from a tire manufacturer to a tire solutions company to a mobility solutions company is very much supported by a digital transformation.
Mm-hmm. Now, I can imagine a digital transformation like this one. It has to come with particular challenges or maybe obstacles. Could you share a little bit more about the obstacles that you may have had?
Obviously, there's a lot going on in the industry. Yeah, there's a number of macroeconomic movements that are happening. We often describe that with the CASE acronym. Connected, autonomous, shared, and electric, and that sort of changes the behavior of our customers. Yeah, throw in the mix there a little bit of the diminishing resources, the urbanization problems, and then you see that this sector has some unique challenges that are further accelerated by some of the digital disruption that we see. It's effectively the physical world and the digital world that are starting to merge together. Now, again, I think we're in a good position to meet those challenges, and we have built a plan around first of all in continuing to invest in our core tire business, but also really leveraging our retail and maintenance network. Yeah, but then also think more about technology and how we can use it to do predictive maintenance and build as a service modules, and then more and more also those real digital mobility solutions products and services that we're bringing to the market. Now, the way that we've addressed that is basically a three-pronged strategy. So first of all, we looked at creating. Yeah. And what we've done there is we've created the concept of digital garage within Bridgestone, where R&D, branding, and IT start collaborating specifically around a number of solutions. But we've also looked at acquisitions. Recently, I think about 2 years ago, we have acquired TomTom Telematics, which sort of puts us in a position of being now a leading fleet management solutions or a fleet solutions company, already serving over 1.2 million vehicles across all of Europe. And last but not least is also through partnerships with technology companies and with IT companies that support us in really building new solutions or really enhancing some of our existing solutions.
I really like this notion of digital garage, specifically for Bridgestone, of course. More importantly, maybe, I have to ask, when you talk about cars, tires, rubber, there's always this notion of sustainability, of course, that's coming up or popping up, especially when we talk about next generation mobility. Could you maybe tell us, in what way did the digital transformation impact your sustainability goals at Bridgestone?
Yeah, I think first of all, sustainability is a big topic in the automotive industry, and it's part of what is really driving that change. And I think again, at Bridgestone, we call it the way we serve, or way to serve. Yeah, we have developed a corporate sustainability program that has very specific targets to make sure that we support the United Nations sustainability goals. Yeah, we look at that also in 3 different areas. First of all, mobility, which is how we, with our technology, help to solve that mobility question mark, or that challenge that is out there. Obviously, around people, how can we educate? How can we just take care of the communities that we live and work in? And last but not least, really the environment. Yeah. That means that we have the ambition to be a global sustainable solutions company by 2050. That still seems quite some distance away, but we have a number of intermediate goals that we're hitting at this point in time. And what is important for us is to really ensure that we have that sustainability living through the entire value chain that we create, from the raw materials that we use to produce our tires, but also the life cycle management, bringing used tires back for reuse for something else. Yeah, and creating that value chain and creating that circular economy for our industry is important to us. And what we do with solutions and with digital tools and with technology is very much supporting that ambition.
All right. Thank you for those wonderful insights, and good luck with the rest of the transformation project, because it's, of course, definitely not finished.
You're welcome.
It's never finished, right? Okay, turning to you now, Sébastien. In your role as a Chief Digital Officer for bpost, well, a postal service, one might argue, in a paperless society like the one we're living in, what has bpost has to offer? What does bpost has to offer in terms of digitization?
I like your remark, because 2 years ago, when I decided to join bpost, I said, what's more fun to digitalize a paper industry? In fact, So I thought a little bit, and I say, yes, go for it. But first, what's important to know is that bpost is at a tipping point for the moment. So we need to reinvest ourselves. Mail revenue are declining. At the same time, the parcels business is growing. So we need to reinvest ourselves, but make sure that we have still sufficiently, I will say, money to make the right investment in the upcoming years. Now, bpost is not only a Belgian company anymore, it's a group. More or less half of the employees are outside Belgium. We are more or less 35,000 today. So this means that we are also changing progressively. Our objective is to become an omni-commerce logistic player in the world. So it's completely different than the Belgian, I will say, ambition that bpost had some years ago. Alors, you mentioned what are we already doing as an initiative. It's clear that we need to reduce, I will say, the mail decline. So we are adding progressively some digital touch in our mail product in order that we can keep, I will say, this business since a long time, in order to get money to fund also the other investment that we want to do in the company. So I would like just to give you one example. It's the Sign for Me project. So everybody knows, for instance, the registered mail. When you get registered mail and when you are at home, it's easy. you can get it directly. When you are not at home, you need to go at the B post office. Of course, with, I will say, our life, it's sometimes difficult to go at the B post office before the right schedule where the B post office is closed. So today, for instance, we have a project called Sign For Me, a product event, because it's in production, where the customer can sign a mandate. So typically, if the customer is signing a mandate to get the registered mail at home, then we can just put the registered mail in the mailbox, in the post box of the customer. Of course, it's changing something because the customer doesn't go to the B post office. So we are trying to add, I would say, digital component in all the different mail products to reduce the decline and to make sure that our mail product can continue to survive a long period of time. At the same time, we are investing in our new business, so the parcels business. And during the last 2 years, I believe we invest a lot to ease, I will say, the life of the customer. For instance, they can define a safe place. If you are not at home, the postman can drop, I will say, the parcel at a specific place. If you are not at home, you can ask to a neighbor to get, I will say, your parcels. We are also putting in place some time window in order that you know when the parcel will arrive, and we are trying to improve this type, I will say, of services month after month. Mm-hmm. Another example related to B-Post industry and certainly the mail is the digitalizing of the mail product as such. So some Belgian customers can already enjoy to get their mail in their digital mailbox into our mobile application next to a lot of services.
Data users, by the way.
Yeah. So we are trying each time to add this digital component in order that we can prepare the future as much as we can.
Yeah, and I can imagine a lot of those innovations are also driven by the expectations of the customers. I think a lot of Belgian customers expect bpost to innovate its business, its solutions. Could you elaborate a little bit? To what extent does the innovation really meet the expectations?
Yeah, it's an interesting question because at bpost 2 years ago, in fact, we decided to go for an agile methodology. It was not the case before. So today, now we have more or less 50 agile team running in parallel, and their objective is always to adapt, I will say, to the customer needs. So each time that the customer has another expectation, we are trying, I will say, to reinvent ourselves. Today, we have 9 key value streams around digital transformation. So we are digitalizing the B-Post office, we are digitalizing the life of our postman, we are digitalizing all the different business that we have. So we are trying to reinvent ourselves. At the same time, we are investing in an innovation center at Mechelen. So we are trying to test all the things that we are doing with real customer before to make one line of code. Alors, you were talking about the environmental impact. For sure, for us at bpost, it's key because we are driving every day in each street in the country. So for sure, we need to reinvent ourselves. So for the moment, we are working with some specific cities about the concept of ecozone. So we are trying to do our business differently. No cars anymore, bike, if cars, electric cars, trying to develop also our Pudo network, so the different lockers that you can start to see everywhere in the different city. So the ecological footprint for bpost, it's key. And behind this 9 value stream that I mentioned, the sustainability, it's, I will say, a common line. So it's one clear priority for bpost. If I'm coming back to the lockers, today in Belgium, we have more or less 2,500 lockers, and clearly we want to expand that quickly. Our objective is to have, I will say, different retail network than what we have today in order to reduce, I will say, the ecological footprint of bpost.
Okay. Now, moving forward, how do you see bpost maintaining a competitive edge as aspects of our lives shift to being even more remote?
I like to say to the team each time that we need to anticipate. Mm-hmm. Sometimes decisions that we are taking now will have an impact in 2 years' time. I will just give one example. During the COVID period, of course, the parcels business growth as crazy. Mm-hmm. And of course, we had to manage this capacity, this growth in terms of capacity. Last year in December, we had so much, I would say, parcel that was impossible to manage it in a normal way. So we had to deploy quickly some new retail office in Decathlon shop. It won't be possible if we won't be asset light. And this asset light decision was taken 2 years ago. So we decided to be able to multiply our retail network as fast as possible. So sometimes you need to anticipate because some elements will arrive. And so you need to develop something that you don't need directly, but that you need to deploy. So for me, one important thing to compete in the future is to anticipate. So we are investing in a lot of different elements that we perhaps won't get a lot of value today, but we will get value in 1 or 2 years. The second aspect, for me, it's very important, is that we are developing much more the end-to-end view at bpost from a group perspective. For instance, if I take the parcels business, we need to know more and more who is the receiver of the parcels. If we know who is the receiver, what's the, I would say, preference of this receiver in terms of delivery, in terms of sustainability, then we can leverage better, I would say, our product on the sender side. We can convince some other big player to partner with us and not with others on the market. So I will say the two most important elements for me is to anticipate as much as possible and don't believe that we'll get value directly. And the second thing, end-to-end, so not only from a agile perspective, but from a group perspective. No?
What are actually some great examples, by the way, on the innovation that bpost is working on. But what would be your main challenge when you talk about digital transformation?
I believe the main challenge for the moment for bpost is to decide and prioritize. We have so much, I will say, innovation in the pipeline, so much team running at the same time that we need to select the right topic each quarter to make sure that we are progressing. That's, I believe, the most challenge. It's not to get idea, it's to choose the right idea.
And prioritize.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you so much. Great insights. Now, turning to the left side of the table again, Dieter, thanks again for being here with us today. Well, if we turn our attention to the finance sector, I was kind of hoping you could start by outlining for us what innovation means for a financial institution in Belgium.
No, certainly. I think nobody can deny, as the previous speakers already said, that COVID had an impact on this digital transformation stuff. And that's also why I want to zoom in a bit more on, let's say, where I think some innovations have already had impact. Perhaps not the latest, but I think it's important to develop on that. And if you also look to the FS, financial services sector, I think you can divide it a bit in two domains, but they are heavily intertwined. You have more, let's say, the business model innovation, but at the same hand, we have also the technological innovations. And I think both are required and reinforce themselves. We do have some product innovation on sustainability, etc. But if you look back, for example, let me start with artificial intelligence. I think it's on the agenda of every FS player and perhaps even of the larger industry as well. We have seen that the technology has matured over the past few years. You also see, if you look to the fintech population, I think a large portion of them are either leveraging AI or providing AI services towards us as incumbents. And I think that being said, you see that largely there are three domains where FS players have adopted it and have did some transformation. For example, on customer experience, I think lately we have seen really good virtual assistants or real AI-enabled interactions with customers, whereas it was still a couple of years ago. I think everybody has had some bad experience with chatbots who didn't understand you, but I do see a real maturization there, and we go further. I second as well personalization. It's in banking, certainly for us as a retail bank, it's important. And you also see that AI enables us there by knowing our customers a little bit better and also be able to automate a bit farther. You can see that for example, with pricing or the real product offer you make to your customers can be personalized even more. And then, of course, third, and we are a heavily regulated sector. We are prone to attempts for fraud as well. And I think that's already on a large scale that every retail bank is applying them to counterfeit fraud. And for me, then you could say, oh, Dieter, what are you dwelling about artificial intelligence? It has already been there for 50 or 60 years. And that's true if you look to the essence, to the theory, to the mathematics. But I think nobody can deny that we lacked the compute power to do it at scale. And there you see that, of course, cloud computing, which is another evolution, is there as an enabler. Because to do it at scale, you need compute at scale, and that's where cloud comes in. Of course, speaking from a bank, I think the colleagues will be able to confirm, there is something called GDPR, and there is also something coming like Schrems 2. So I think there's still, it will take some time, but I think the market will adopt itself, and we will continue to see the shift towards that cloud paradigm. And I think there an important point is, of course, how to avoid vendor lock-in, because we all know it's a limited number of big players. I think that's an important aspect to do. But of course, what does that relate to this business model innovation? The speed at which banks are putting functionality at disposition of their customers, it's increasing because we have to. Competition is increasing, so we have to follow more easy. And that's also if your infra is more when you need it, at scale when you need it, and that it can help. But I think there is a second point, which is often not so obvious, is when you do it right, I'm convinced that your cloud infrastructure, you can control it in a better way. You have to put less effort in technical upgrades, less effort in patch and vulnerability management. IT colleagues, that's something we have to do, but it's not at the service of our customers. You can contain that a little bit less. Now, normally you would expect as third blockchain, and I will not deny the cryptocurrencies and the effects that has had on our industry, but in general, I think still the large use cases at scale that can really empower the industry are still in development, let's say, and still under construction. So for me, that impact of blockchain is still to come, except for the cryptocurrencies. And that's why I would like to say something else on APIs. And I said APIs, also something that has been there for a while. Yes, it's a logical next step in what we try to do as IT for the past 40, 50 years. It's letting applications talk to each other, but in an as independent way as possible. And why do I mention that? Because there have been coalitions between banks and telco. There have been banks that are looking beyond banking services, banking as a platform, banking as a service. And in order to do so, you need those APIs. You have to have stable, but also secure APIs to do so. So I think there, if you look to innovation in the financial service industry, for me, it's really, there are a lot of ideas, but it's to a certain extent the evolution of the technology that comes hand in hand, and then we really can make that difference towards our customers.
How does AXA look, for example, to open banking?
Well, I think as a Belgian retail bank, we look into that, we try to follow it, but certainly we focus on what our customers want. And that's something we try to do, is really to check, okay, what is our customer segment? What do they want? And at which pace do they want it? So indeed, we are already offering some things there, but not the full stack yet.
You were already briefly touched upon customer experience already, but could you elaborate maybe a little bit more specifically on how digital transformation programs allow banks like AXA to improve the customer experience?
Yes, certainly. I want to do that with two concrete examples that we have had in our portfolio, also direct in our priorities as a retail bank. First of all, the past few years, we have heavily invested in what we call our omni-channel mortgage and consumer loans origination. And why do I stress omni-channel? Because there we really made every step of that process, you can do either digital or either at the branch. And that's for us was important because, as we said, we try to listen to our customers. There they say, yes, that segment wants to do it there, that segment wants to do it there. So there we said, okay, let's do it all the way and really make it interchangeable. And that got us also a lot of positive feedback because they say, actually, this is technology at our disposition. We as a customer, we can choose, do I want to upload my documents? Do I want to upload my wage slips digitally? Yes. But do I want to do the advice discussion or really all these sometimes different product types we have? Do I want to discuss all these benefits and contrasts digitally? No. And then you see that some of them really want to go to the branch. And I think that's a thing of being customer first is really letting the customer decide what he wants to do where. And a second one, on investments, we have what we call our GPS. It's actually an application at the service of our distribution agents, where they can, based on robo-advisory, so the AI again, but also APIs to connect all the data, we help to complement the expertise of our agent with all that information and again personalize the offer towards our customer. So on a portfolio way, but relatively personalized to his context. And there you see that we then can realize our strategies to accompany our customer when he needs it. When you want to invest, it's something you do most of the time for a relatively mid to long term. You want to be comfort that where you invest in, it's either correct, ethical, but certainly that it will keep its value to a certain extent. And that's where we then try to push that product offer again.
A lot of innovation happening at AXA Bank, that's for sure. Is it hard to convince the upper management to allow the necessary budgets to go for all these kind of innovations?
No, I don't think so. I think people see the necessity to do so. As being said, we really believe in that combination of both digital and omni and at the branch. So indeed, you need to free up that capacity to invest there. And I think it's quite clear. We have a clear mission, we have a clear strategy, and as long as, of course, it has to fit into that. Some idea at the side, of course, that's perhaps more difficult when it's for the longer term to do a POC. Okay, then you have to be aligned and keep it to a dense size. But in general, the programs I've talked about, no, that was a clear-cut case of where everybody was aligned. Yeah.
Good to hear. Great examples too. Thank you. Thank you for that. Jed, I'm turning to you now. You have been waiting a long time already. You've heard the other panelists talk about the transformation and their transformation projects they are working on. Now, on a more technological level, from TCS perspective maybe, what are the main tools of digital transformation that we've really seen emerge, and then especially more specifically in Belgium?
I think what's been interesting, just hearing my colleagues talk, I mean, there are what we see common characteristics across all the industries. And being a consultant, of course, we have an acronym, SMART. But the first one is speed. People want stuff fast. I mean, nobody's waiting for anything anymore. There's your competitor who's just sitting around the corner who will do it before you do it. Monetary value for money now just keeps getting repeated. You know, you then have accessibility, I think, which we've just learned over the last 18 months. I want to be able to do it at home. I need to be able to do it on an iPad. I need to be able to do it on a laptop. I need to do it here, there, and everywhere. Regulation, whether it's GDPR, which affects everybody, and of course all financial regulations for yourself. Again, these are common themes which have to keep coming through. And of course, transparency. People will no longer accept the black box. Mm-hmm. So when you look at these characteristics across all of these industries, I mean, we see 5 really key technologies coming out. And I think trying to describe it really as 3 technologies in a sandwich. Now, the bottom layer of the sandwich is security. Rightly or wrongly, whether we want to or not, this is a fundamental thing we have to put in place to get trust right. People will not buy our services if they don't feel secure. And we've seen it today. You know, you can go on the newspapers. A number of 0-day exploits will be exposed today. And these are in tip-top companies. This is not just like a fly-by-night companies. These are the big companies, all the big players in the world suffer it. We now have the even more worrying one is the supply chain attacks. Mm. So people infecting the software that you use to monitor the security. I mean, it becomes, who checks the checkers? And a lot of these things are dormant and the latent. So even when we say, well, we'll take good sandboxing policies and stuff, that is still another big challenge. So that's the bottom layer which we have to get right, I believe. On top of that, the top bit of the sandwich is RPA. Automate. I mean, when you look at the machine first concept now, I think is the de facto standard. Whether it's a chatbot, whether it's predictive analytics, the machine is now driving the area. Yes, we need to keep humans in the loop for those moments when we say yes, good, no, bad. But the machine then should be doing a lot of the heavy lifting. So with that sort of 2 slices of bread on your sandwich, and the filling is really the big chunks. Cloud has been a great enabler of an awful lot of capability, a lot of capacity. Yes, lock-ins are always a challenge, but there are a lot of services. We have SaaS and PaaS platforms now, which I think people are using more and more to achieve this level of speed that they need. And everything then is also got this great big flavor of data, which runs through those. So when you put those 5 tools together, you really have access to just about anything that you want to do. You're limited then more by your imagination and your wallet to what you want to achieve on that.
A technology sandwich.
Yeah, technology sandwich, yeah.
Great. Now, could you identify maybe some of the significant enablers of digital transformation and maybe also the obstacles or the hurdles that one can suffer?
I mentioned security. As you said, it's, it can't be underestimated. So we say to everybody, don't skimp on it. You be proactive at risk on that. The cloud is interesting. So when we've looked at a lot of our customers, not just here in Belgium, but also across the world, when they initially moved, say, from a DC to a cloud enablement, they would get a kickback of about 30% saving. You think, well, that's great. However, what we see with a lot of cloud controls is that there isn't cloud control. Just doing that lift and shift into the cloud environment without paying attention to waste management, cost management, all of a sudden your cloud costs can start to explode. And this is, this on the one hand, I wouldn't say it's an inhibitor, but be aware that all those gains you may have made by moving in terms of just on cost, but then in terms of speed, scalability, that all comes at a cost as well. So good planning around those areas. We see that really plan your scalability, plan your high availability platforms in there, so you can really get a good grip on the cloud control and the cloud costs in there. Think about your latency, think about your monitoring, think about the rates that you're doing. These are policies that you have to do to try and really get the maximum value, because then you've got on tap resources. Everything there is just like this, pow, pow, pow. And when you orchestrate that with an automation layer across the top, yes, you have banking in a box. In a couple of hours, you have new services available in a couple of hours. Everything then all of a sudden hits that goal of speed and value. When we looked at the SaaS PaaS platforms, SaaS in particular has been great because again, I can buy a full ERP on the cloud. I don't need to go 4-year traject with implementing SAP or Oracle. I can get all these tools available. However, what we see is that has led to a lot of shadow IT. And again, it comes back down to the speed. If we as an IT service provider, as an IT department, can't react fast enough, the business users who we satisfy will go and say, well, hang on, I've got these guys here who are offering me this platform, which I can use today, and I can start leveraging today and start getting value. Now, how that fits into your backup and recovery, your GDPR, your security, these are the things, with the challenges that we face with shadow IT, but the need is there. And so when we keep the speed mantra always in our mind, is how then can we rapidly integrate? And you talk about microservices, you talk about APIs, how can we rapidly integrate all of these components? Again, automation becomes this key across the top as to how we will actually achieve that. So you're looking at both, it's a great enabler, but also it has these areas which you have to be aware of. And I think the third area, when we looked at data, see, again, huge accessibility tools. So I've got on my laptop, on my work standard office laptop, I've got tools like Python, I've got TensorFlow, I've got Keras, I've got all sorts of tools. So I can do experiments with the data that we monitor with. What we've seen again for the challenge here is, how do I get this from a proof of concept running on a laptop, running on a Jupyter notebook, into machine learning operations, ML ops? There's some great tools out there, but that step from going from a research program all the way into a fully hardened, solid production solution, again, these are the things that people have to look at. So yes, we have great accessibility to tools. We have a lot of freedom to do whatever we need to do, but how do I move it from research, proof of concept, scaling? And then even when I've scaled up to a full-time solution, what we're seeing with data is, how do I do A/B testing? So I'm trying out a new model. Does it work any better? Does it do better with churn? Does it do better with this sort of a goal? How can I do that? How I got the tools and infrastructure to collect all that, and again, to rapidly change areas of performance. The other area that we've seen big with data is certainly in the areas of explainable AI. We all want to know, why did the machine make that prediction? And it doesn't really matter whether it's obviously with areas such as anything to do with human resources, you need to be able to explain and justify back to people why it put there. But we've looked at it in terms of supplier management. Okay, I'm predicting lots of part failures in a certain supplier. Now, I can say I can drop that supplier, but the supplier then comes back, well, hang on, why are you dropping me? You're dropping me based on an algorithm? How do I explain that to somebody to explain to them that this was actually clear? So there's lots of challenges with lots of great tools available. But yes, everything comes at a cost and a sort of a management thought process is, how am I going to challenge this? How am I going to make sure that I'm doing the right things? Again, it goes all back to this T in SMART, which was transparency.
So after this technology sandwich, now on-tap resources, you're making me hungry and thirsty at the same time, Jed. Finally, one question maybe from the perspective of growth and transformation partner. Mm-hmm. How do you feel, how do you think the market forces in Belgium are helping to shift in this direction?
I think what we've observed, I think the people who probably struggled the most during COVID have been the manufacturing companies. I think supply chain resilience is what we've seen with a number of our companies, because it's not just the internal processes of one company, it's all the partners, it's all the distributors. How have they managed all together? Because in the end, as a customer, I buy something. How it's got to me and who it's been through, I don't care. But we saw a lot of the manufacturing, and we see a lot of investment at the moment into the supply chain from the manufacturing side. For other companies, there's been huge opportunities, as you said, for logistics. What a great opportunity now that people, a lot more product needs to be delivered to people's houses. People weren't leaving the house. So you get this area, so there's huge opportunities there. And I think when you look at it from that perspective, I think that the market is very strong. And I know when we were doing some of the preparation calls, I mentioned that the Belgian government, and I know you all seem to disagree with this, is actually probably slightly more advanced than a lot of the government areas. The public sector in Belgium is quite strong. They seem to have a belief of wanting to do it. Now, how quickly it goes, that always remains to be seen. But compared to other government sectors we work with, this is quite one of the more forward-thinking public sectors. So you have to see from my colleagues here, private sector is embracing all of this technology, all of this capability. And then you look at the public sector as well, is also pushing this up there. So there is a great market here, I think, and it's a great place to be in and a great time to be in, I think.
And it's a very strong statement, positive statement on the public sector in Belgium. Mm-hmm. So thank you for that.
That's okay.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, we can go on for hours, I think, on digital transformation, and we certainly covered a lot of ground there, but I'm sure you will all agree that we've certainly learned a lot, not just about technology. We've learned also about sustainability and innovation and how they are all coming together at Bridgestone, at AXA Bank, at bpost, and how growth and transformation partners like TCS are bringing together communities, organizations, and stakeholders from across ecosystems and help them collaborate to do right. It's time for us to close this session. I would like to thank Bart, Sébastien, Dieter, and Jed for a wonderful range of insights into these three crucial areas. It has been wonderful to come together physically. I'm already looking forward to reconnect at some point very soon. And of course, thank you too, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all for listening wherever you are, in the office or at home. We hope that you have found this session engaging, thought-provoking, and most importantly, enjoyable. Have a wonderful day. Goodbye for now.